Back this past Monday, we went to the British Museum, which is different than the Museum of London, and the Victoria and Albert Museum, and the National Gallery, and all of the other museums that are very similarly named. But the British Museum has two very big and pretty mainstream attractions. The first being the Rosetta Stone, and the second being the Parthenon. I'm not saying that the actual Parthenon is here or anything. That wouldn't make a lot of sense considering that there are ruins of it in Greece. But there are huge slabs of marble and rock on display that are from the actual Parthenon. This is a particular type of sculpture called a relief. This means that the actual design is raised from its background. It's been carved out and is still attached to the rock that it's sculpted from. The elaborate and vivid paint that would have decorated these slabs isn't present, of course. I mean, it's only been a couple thousand years or something like that. In a nutshell, the Parthenon is a really big, really expensive, really shiny present for Athena. Construction on it was started in 447 BC, when Athens was high off their very long-lasting wealth from the Trojan War. If you didn't go to an American high school and weren't forced to read the Odyssey 2,000 times and aren't as familiar with it as I am, Athena was the goddess sort of guiding everything in the Trojan War. She basically made sure everyone was where they needed to be at the exact time that they needed to be there. Unless you're Achilles. He lost his true love within 5 minutes of meeting her when he accidentally stabbed her in battle, and then he died by being hit in the one spot that could actually kill him. Fun fact, if you're looking at Greek vases, the winner is usually shown on the left-hand side. I actually pointed to the left. Good for me. So this guy named Pericles starts building this huge thing in honor of Athena. Keep in mind, this isn't meant to be used as a temple for worship. This is a present. It's basically a jewelry box. It's beautifully built and adorned with bronze and marble, and there's a huge statue of Athena called the Athena Parthenos in the back of the temple. It took them 15 years and the modern equivalent of $5.5 million to build it. Now, there are three types of sculpture shown in the Parthenon. There's the metope, the pediment, and the frieze. The metope shows ancient battles on block reliefs. These are on the outer border of the Parthenon. The pediment is in the shape of a triangle, and odds are you've seen one of these before and just haven't known what it is or why it's there. This area tells the story of the building itself. In this case, the birth of Athena. Actually, one of my favorite Greek stories. Long story short, Zeus had this really bad headache, so he asked Hephaestus to beat his head with a hammer, and then Zeus's skull just splits open, and Athena just pops out of his skull in complete battle armor. The statues shown here are not specifically Athena's birth, but merely a portion of it, and the frieze. These are basically metopes. If you look in the diagram, you can see that there are two rows of columns, with the metopes on the outside and the frieze on the inside. They mostly contain images of the gods. In fact, if you were a human going into the Parthenon, you wouldn't have noticed these particular reliefs. You'd have to strain your neck to look at them. It would be like sitting in the front row of the IMAX. And of course, you'd have to know that there was something there to be able to look for them in the first place. This was no accident. Pericles intended the gift to be just for Athena, and, well, for the other gods. Excluding gods from presents is a generally bad plan. And of course, being a goddess, Athena would have been able to see every single inch of her beautiful temple. Now, there's something interesting about some of the reliefs. Pericles depicts gods and goddesses seated, while mortals attend to their needs. Not on all of them, just in the ones on the frieze. It's like he's comparing Athens to the great Olympus. Of course, we don't know if he did this intentionally, but it does wrap things up in a rather macabre Greek fashion. By this time, Athens, intoxicated by their own wealth and power, had already started war with Sparta. The sort of comparison that Pericles draws here is sort of a poetic harbinger for the fall of Athens. Pericles himself was one of the first people to die from the plague that the Spartans brought. Happy Saturday, you guys. I hope you can all finally catch up on the sleep you've been missing out on. I will see you all on Monday.